Hello, everybody. We've got a show that promises to be at least mildly interesting for your listening and watching enjoyment. I'm your host, Jared Correia. I'm the CEO of Red Cave Law Firm Consulting. For my monologue, I'm talking about one of my favorite end-of-year activities. That's right, building revenue projections. In the interview, we've got Massyl Mallem of PatentPlus AI. In the counter program, we're playing the popular family game Con Man, all about the shittiest of the New England states, Connecticut. Now, let's talk about how to make more money. That's a pretty good teaser, right? Okay, as I mentioned, one of my favorite year-end activities that I run through with all my consulting clients is finalizing everybody's Christmas and Hanukkah lists. No, that's not true. The actual year-end activity is creating revenue projections for the firm. If you've never done this before, or you've never even heard of this, it would be a good time to think about doing those kinds of things. Why? Well, because you need goals as a business owner. If you don't have goals, you're just guessing. And assuming is bad. We've all heard the phrase, assuming makes an ass of you and me. So if you're assuming that you're going to make certain amounts of money every year, you're not going to notice trends in your business that could be on a downward spiral. So trend data is something you should review and act on. And one of the ways to figure out, like, how is your business trending, both in total revenue and also revenue related to specific practice areas, is to actually look at your prior year's numbers and try to project next year's numbers. And if this is the first time you're ever doing this, if you just started a law firm this year, then you're doing it for the first time. So I'll tell you how to do it. Now, if you do revenue projections for a while, you're going to have actual results to compare to your projections to see how well you did or how poorly. But that's not entirely what the game is about. The game is largely about setting goals for your business so you can get aggressive and so that your business doesn't stagnate. So let's talk about how you do it. When I talk to people about revenue projections, I basically ask them to reverse engineer a product. So let's take a look at last year's revenue. If you don't have one, you're going to make it up. But we're going to figure out like an amount of money you want to make this year. And we'll talk about the different types of goals and models in a second. But once you have that number in place, the next thing I would look at is your case values. So you want to know your average case value for each type of case that you have. And then it's just like building blocks. So if you have, 20 estate planning cases that you can do this year, and you do $5,000 per estate plan, that's $100,000. If you have 10, civil litigation cases, and you make $10,000 on each civil litigation case, that's $100,000. Stack those two together, you just made $200,000 this year. You can mix and match. If you have more practice areas, you can add those in, but you get the general thesis. Like, come up with a number, try to figure out how that would actually happen in reality. And you can mess around with that in any number of ways you want to. You can build different revenue cases, as I alluded to before. So you may have an aggressive revenue case, your stretch goal maybe, where you're like, boy, I would really like to make this. And then run the numbers and see, well, what would that look like? What would I have to do to hit that number? How much more money would I have to make this year than last year? You could run a break-even case. Like, okay, what do I need to do? Let's say it's your first year running a law firm, or it's your first year hiring an associate. How do I break even? What's that number? You could also, if you're an attorney, which you probably are if you're listening, and looking at sort of like the worst case scenario, which is what every attorney does, you could even figure out how you manage for that. What if I make half of the money I made last year? What would I do in that situation? How could I react? So if you start looking at this and using your average case values as a building block, and you can probably find that number in a case management software or an accounting software, so this is not all handwork. That should work for billable hour firms and also project-based firms or flat fee firms. Now, just remember, the idea is to not guess with perfect accuracy. So you're not trying to hit a number necessarily, a specific number. You're trying to make an educated guess. And ideally, you have a stretch goal in place that you're trying to hit to make yourself work a little bit harder at this. Probably harder than you've worked if you've never done revenue projections and if you're focused on business growth. If you do this quite a bit, you start doing it year over year, you'll probably get closer every year you do it. So again, it's not perfect. It's just an idea of what you'll make. If you've done this previously, what's cool is that you can compare your projected revenue to your actual revenue. Like, how close was I? Was my guess insane? Was it fairly accurate? Maybe I didn't stretch enough on my stretch goal last year, so I need to be more aggressive about that this year. Now, I know when I talk to clients of mine, I have very different ideas about what their stretch goal is versus what they think their stretch goal is. Mine's always higher. Now, if you have a contingent model, this might be a little bit different. So for those, the payoff is longer term. You're funding those cases. So there's some additional costs. But in terms of like top line revenue, like how much money you can make, the criteria you should be looking at is the case settlement value. And again, this is just educated guesses, projections. What do I think this case is worth? And then you also want to have a projected settlement date. And then what I like to do with contingent firms is I also like to put a potential for settlement number on there. Like if a case is 70% likely to settle versus 30%. And just as a backstop, I have a potential trial date and a potential trial award, just in case the settlement doesn't happen. And obviously, when you're looking at these numbers, you can see, okay, what's the likelihood that this is going to trial based on my percentage to settle figure. So that's a good starting point. And you can build it out from there and add more data points if you want to. But the difference is you need to extend it out over the course of years because some of those contingent cases take 2-3 years to settle. So I would have at a very baseline level spreadsheet, workbooks for different years, and then I would spread those numbers out so you have a good idea of what your cash flow looks to be over a 2-3 year period. So slight tweak on that. And again, you can have stretch goals, you can compare that to actual, a whole host of things you can do there. But if you don't have a revenue projection, you don't really have a goal as a baseline goal for the year for your law firm. And I think a lot of goals can cascade off of that. So as I just alluded to, I think the real value of revenue projections is the conversations they force you to have. So you have to figure out, if I need to get 10 more cases, how do I do that? Well, that's a marketing question. So you have to figure that out, and you probably have to talk to your team about the strategy. Or if you're a solo attorney, you have to meet with yourself. How many leads are you going to convert, and from what sources? Okay, now that's an intake and conversion conversation. So who do you talk to about that? What kind of software do you use? Do your pipelines, as you've set them up, work effectively? What are those baseline data sets to begin with? Like, what's your lead conversion rate right now? Who's going to bring the work in? Is that going to be built on paid marketing and advertising? Is that going to be an origination thing where you're relying on attorneys to bring work in using referrals, the traditional law firm strategy? And then once you get the work, who's going to do it? So now we're talking about work allocation, case allocation. Who do I give this to? And what are the criteria for passing work into the firm? And can people share origination fees? What's your profit expected to be? Now we're talking about a different thing. We're no longer talking about top line revenue. We're talking about how much money you're going to actually make after taxes, after your budget. So you have to figure for all that stuff. And oh, by the way, if you don't have a budget, this is a good time to run a proposed budget as well, so you can get a profitability number. And then you can compare that to the actual budget for the year in the same way that you're comparing your revenue guesses to the actual revenue for the year, et cetera, et cetera. Like everything else, data doesn't mean shit unless it generates conversations that lead to action. Speaking of conversation that leads to action, we've got Massyl Mallem of PatentPlus AI coming up right now. We're talking about patent searches, and we're also discussing baleen whales. Wait, being told only one of those is true. Although I suspect we'll talk about the Hartford whalers. Be back in a second. Well, I've effectively run out of things to say, which is awkward because this is a podcast. So I'm just going to go out and run some errands. I'll be right back. Nah, that's kind of weird. Let's bring in our guest instead. I can always pick up some milk later. Our guest today is Massyl Mallem, who is the CEO and co-founder at PatentPlus AI. Massyl, welcome to the show, man. How you doing?
I'm doing good. Thanks for having me, Jared. I really appreciate it. And if you want to go, run some errands, I'll take over from here. It's okay.
Oh, great. Okay, I'll see you later.
No problem.
You taught me a little bit of Arabic before we started, so I appreciate that.
Of course, anytime. Actually, Arabic tutor on the side to help fund this startup because startups don't make money.
Oh, yes, we'll get into that. I thought I was a little bit more badass with the Arabic than I actually turned out to be. So, my bad.
Yeah, it's
I'm still learning.
It's just English is very limited with the kind of noises that you can make in the English alphabet. So there is so little you can do to undo like years and decades of pronunciating, but there's at least like 6 different sounds that exist in Arabic alphabet that just don't exist in Romantic languages.
That's wild. My son is a teenager, so he makes a lot of sounds, mostly different variations on grunting. So let's talk about the startup thing. Why on earth would you jump into a startup company? It's not because of the money, right?
No, yeah, not that. No, actually, I do like entrepreneurship teaching at UConn every once in a while, kind of just talking about my experience and whatnot. And I always, when I get the opportunity, I tell students not to pursue entrepreneurship, but with the caveat of if you want to do it because you want to get rich quick, then it's the worst decision. But if you want to do it to learn, then it is the best. And there's nothing that can teach you as much as entrepreneurship, both in terms of the business, but also a lot of the technical world. There's very little you can do to learn quicker than just by applying it, doing it yourself, and learn as you go. So intellectual curiosity is definitely, it's a prerequisite to any entrepreneurial endeavor. And a lot of times, money does eventually come across, and you get lucky, but you need a lot of luck as well as dedication and smarts and everything.
I think that's a cool way to look at it from an intellectual curiosity perspective. I don't hear people say that a lot. I hear people mostly be like, I'm going to sell out, or I'm going to make a ton of money doing this. That's a great viewpoint that you have. Okay, so why did you decide to do this? Because I don't
Absolutely.
think you practiced law. I think you have an engineering background. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yes, sir.
How do you go from engineering to legal?
Yeah, well, intellectual curiosity. Actually, in high school, I loved political science and history, but when it was time to pick a college major, I was like, right, I need to work, right? So I went more technical route. I studied chemical engineering. From intellectual curiosity perspective, I was interested in so many majors. It was very hard to pick, but eventually I picked chemical engineering. And then I saw an ad, was actually studying for organic chemistry, and obviously got tired, decided to procrastinate a little bit. I open up my email, I see a job posting for intellectual property. And in the job posting, they're like, we're looking for either a PhD in chemistry or a pre-law student. And I'm like, why would you put pre-law and chemistry in the same sentence, right? And I always wanted to be a lawyer since I was little. And obviously I was studying in chemical engineering. So I was like, this sounds, perfect. It's like the marriage of the two things that I like the most, again, from an intellectual perspective. So, decided to take the opportunity, interviewed. It was like a full-time position as an intellectual property specialist. The person who had the job before me was going on maternity leave, and I guess they're like, why not, let's replace her with a sophomore in college and see what happens. And it was honestly just love at first sight. Kind of found my calling, to be a little cliche. I was doing everything from working with inventors on invention disclosures all the way to working with attorneys on opposition and invalidation cases. So I got really kind of like a holistic view on the entire, intellectual property world, specifically for patents. And I got really focused on patent searching. That was kind of the most repetitive task that I was doing. And I wasn't satisfied with the options available to the industry in terms of solutions for patent searching. So my best friend and I, were college roommates at the time, decided to give the industry a better option to perform patent searches, and hence we founded the startup.
Okay, let me tell you a quick story about myself. I took organic chemistry in high school as a junior. And
my condolences.
My grade was 35 at the end of the year. And the final was a video game. 35 out of 100 was my final grade. I know jack shit about chemistry. So I'm impressed already that you can even do this shit. Okay, so can we step back 1 second before we get into the software? Why did you decide to get into chemistry? That seems like a terrible choice.
Yeah, no. So again, in high school, I hated chemistry. Absolutely despised it with
Same.
a burning passion, right? And I had a run-in joke. I was like, oh, like, why would I need to know the charge of boron, right? And I'm like, I would never need to use
Right.
that. I want to be
I ask
an
myself
attorney.
that
This is
question every day.
right. Yeah. So, for me, it was completely useless. And then I remember for the senior year, I had really, really bad grades, and I had to get like 100 on or a 95 or whatever, like an A+ on the final to pass the class. So I'm like, I guess I have to learn this now. So I just, applied myself and, just had a whole binge study session to kind of, get my, knowledge set. And it was just general chemistry, nothing crazy. And I liked it. The more I learned, it's like a game. It's like learning a language essentially. And for me, I've, went from my first language was French, and then my first language became Arabic, and now my first language is English. So I love learning languages, and chemistry was essentially that, kind of just like a game, a lot of rules, and it felt like learning a language. And I enjoyed the process of studying for that final because I needed to get a perfect score. I ended up getting a perfect score and I passed the class and everything. So when it was time to pick a college major, I was like, well, I have mechanical engineering, chemical engineering, electrical engineering. Electrical seemed a bit intimidating, and chemical just had better job prospects. At least as a 17-year-old, those are kinds of the conclusions that I made. So I narrowed down like the top three that I will do is electrical, chemical, or software. Software sounded boring. I'm like, what? I'm not going to stand or sit in front of a computer screen and write code all day. That sounds awful. I would never do software engineering. So I was like, I guess chemistry, I have this little love-hate relationship with it. So let's give it a shot and see what happens. In retrospect, I'd say I narrowed it down to the best three. I would agree with that, but probably electrical and software are a little bit more valuable degrees than chemical engineering. But for me, it was a practical decision. It was like, what is the best return on investment from a bachelor's degree? And those are the three that I narrowed that down to.
I like how you're like, I would do software engineering, but it would be more exciting to potentially electrocute myself. Well played.
Right, literally. And then, as things happen, it's like you're making your own plans and God is making, plans completely different. And usually whatever you're saying, I'm never going to do this, that's exactly what you're going to end up doing. Same thing with startups. After I did, engineering, and I was studying full-time in School of Engineering, I was like, plan A is like a patent agent. Plan B, a patent agent to work for a law firm because I wanted to go to, work as a patent attorney after that. Plan C was work as an engineer, plan whatever. Startup was kind of just like a fun thing on the side. I never, never planned for it to take off. It was kind of like, this is my way to stay in touch with the IP space because I loved it so much. But I was realistic and I'm like, 90% of startups fail. That it was like plan D. But eventually we kept doing more competitions, kept getting more grants. Eventually we got VC funding. So I was like, I guess, we're doing it full time. Let's see what happens. And now it's like, I can't imagine doing anything else.
Yeah, now would seem to be a good time to mention that Einstein was a patent clerk, as I'm sure you know.
I was not aware of that.
So let's talk about this. It seems like you do a lot of competitions. Has that been a viable way to get notoriety in the space?
I would say, yeah. Well, different types of competitions. So we started off originally doing a lot of entrepreneurship, like pitch case competitions. They have a lot of those in university. And, they give you a problem, come up with a solution, you make a pitch. We did that a bunch of times, made a little money off of that. It was just like freshman year. We're still 18 years old. And just the process of ideating, of coming up with solutions, developing MVPs, developing prototypes. That was kind of very fulfilling. And that was kind of our intro to entrepreneurship. More recently, though, we've started doing a lot more serious competitions, which if you're familiar with unified patents. So they're basically like an organization, all different types of Fortune 500 companies essentially pay them like a fee on an annual basis. And whenever one of these companies gets challenged by a non-practicing entity, better known as a patent troll patent, they go to Unified, and Unified takes the patent troll's patent number and they put a bounty on it essentially. So they're like, anybody in the world, if you can come up with prior art that can invalidate this troll patent, we'll give you $5,000 or $10,000 or whatever.
Sounds fucking great. Okay, go on.
Yeah.
Bounty hunting patents. All right, I'm on it.
Yeah,
I'm on it.
exactly. And non-practicing entities for the non-initiated are basically just organizations that pursue intellectual property rights for the sole purpose of suing people. So they're not interested in innovating or building or selling.
Yeah.
It's just so I can, attack companies and whatnot. And they're a big problem, especially in the US. So there is a lot of incentive for, people to do this. And for us, the system that we've built is and I should just backtrack a little bit. So patent search in general, you have two types of solutions, and we can dig a little bit deeper into this. But you essentially either outsource your project to a search firm and let them handle it for you, or you purchase subscription to search software and you do the search in-house. You being an IP associate at a law firm or a company or whatever.
Yeah,
We
paralegal,
are the
associate attorneys, right? Yeah.
Yes, exactly. Usually people need to have some sort of technical background to perform the patent search. We're the first company in the world to give the industry a third option, which is don't outsource, don't do it yourself, instead automate. Automate with artificial intelligence. So our solution is not a search engine that people use to search. It's an autonomous search system that performs the search on behalf of the user. And for us, it's, yes, it's cheaper and faster, but those are just side effects. For us, this is a quality play. For us, humans are very bad at patent searching. AI systems are significantly better. So we want to give folks and clients a higher quality patent search, which is why we developed the system. So to tie it back to unified patents, basically we take these patent trolls numbers, we put them through the system, get the claim, invalidate it, submit the prior art to Unified. It's in telecommunications, the last one that we won. And I don't know anything about telecommunications. So the system completely just understands the patent, invalidates it. We submit the prior art and we won multiple of these competitions at this stage. And yes, it has been a great way to get notoriety. A lot of clients kind of reached out to us after they heard about that. And they're like, wow, that sounds great. Can we, use the system ourselves? But also to prove to folks that the, quality is good, because we can do a lot of internal benchmarks and internal testing, but those are whatever. Especially that a lot of the benchmarks, the back tests that we do are against the USPTO or the EPO patent databases. And we're like, hey, the examiner thinks this is the best prior art. Our system also found that. But fundamentally, examiners are really bad at patent searching. They're by no means the gold standard. Why? Because they're humans, and humans are bad at patent searching. So we're like, no. And for example, a lot of, especially recently, patents that have been granted by examiners end up getting invalidated in post-trial proceedings.
Because it's throwing everyone under the bus today. It's a large bus on the podcast today, everyone.
Yeah, exactly. It's a double-decker. So,
everyone sucks.
Except, well, even AI search engines suck if not used properly. For now, it's really just one company that's offering autonomous autonomous patent searching.
So you've got PatentPlus AI, but then you also have part of the feature of that is like AutoPat, which is it's essentially your AI agent, right? So if somebody's out there listening to this, they could think of like Lexis and one of their co-counsel research tools, right?
Essentially, well, AutoPat is really the bread and butter. The PatentPlus AI is the company name, but AutoPat is the star of the show for sure, and that's the name of our system that performs the searching exactly. Right. And to wrap up on that, so basically we go to folks, hey, well, like you can take our word for it, or you can see these multiple troll patents that we've invalidated, the AutoPat invalidated. I'm glad you brought that up, so now I can refer to it, but its actual name, AutoPat invalidated. So like, okay, I can see it. It's not just the internal tests or internal benchmark. Right. It's a public. And the thing with the unified is you'd have dozens of search firms try to invalidate these troll patents. A lot of them also from India, because obviously $5,000 or $10,000 goes a long way there. So it's expert search firms, very technically capable, and they try and they fail. But AutoPat finds better prior art because it's not a human doing the search, and we can dig a little bit deeper into the details of why and how.
How much do you hate humans? No, I'm just kidding. AI never sleeps. Doesn't eat snacks.
So, no, it's actually out of love for humans that we've developed the system, and we're automating this part of the job. Because the way we talk about automation is this thing we called the 10-80-10 rule. So these are percentages. We believe every patent search project and all other types, most of intellectual projects can be split in this can be understood in this kind of framework. So the first 10%, and the last 10% is where our clients get involved. The middle 80% is automated by AutoPat. So what that means essentially is the clients get involved, say for example, for invalidity, they'll get involved in the first 10%. This is the competitor claim that I want to invalidate. These are the most important elements. These are the features. These are the must-haves, nice-to-haves, etc. If there is any ambiguity, and patent law is by definition ambiguous, they can give custom instructions to alleviate the ambiguity, tell the system how to interpret things, basically set up the search strategy. And then AutoPat comes, does 80% of the work, the bulk work, the tedious work, and then the human expert comes back at the end, the final 10%, to make IP decisions. Do I file? Do I not file? Do I invalidate? Do I not invalidate? Do I do a follow-up search, etc.? Why? Because that's what humans are good at. Humans are good at abstract thinking, strategic reasoning, and decision making, i.e. the beginning and the end of the process. The middle, having to read hundreds of patents to find 5 relevant ones, having to try dozens, if not more, search strategies to, unearth the best prior art. Humans are bad at processing that kind of data, especially when each patent is like a 50-page long document filled with dense technical literature and legal jargon, sometimes on purpose, because patent lawyers, or lawyers in general, are sociopaths, as we all know, and they like to complicate things, more than necessary. I know, probably a very popular joke with the listeners of this podcast.
I don't know that I've ever heard anyone call lawyers sociopaths on the show before, but I'm down. Let's explore it.
Why not? Yeah. Well, because what I mean is obviously, sociopaths are smart, so it's a compliment, so to speak. Please be my clients. I love you guys. But the idea is sometimes the language is overly complex on purpose to make the patents harder to find during a patent search, and then they come back and they can sue you for rights, etc. So the point is, it's complicated from a technical perspective and a legal perspective, and then there is thousands and millions of them that you have to review. Humans can't do that, but humans can strategize and make decisions. What AI can do is process that kind of data, sort through the legal jargon, sort through the technical jargon, and do that ad nauseum without taking a break, without picking up its kids from daycare or whatever it is that humans do, which is, why we make it, dictated towards that 80%.
I feel like that's a shot at me, but I'll move past it. So let's talk more about these sociopaths. Let me just speak what a lot of lawyers are probably thinking right now as they're listening to this. Sounds cool. How do we avoid hallucinations? Right, 'cause that's a big concern of lawyers when it comes to AI.
Yeah. Well, for us, that was a problem maybe back in 2021, in 2022. But right now, the system is literally incapable of hallucinating because it doesn't.
Incapable?
Right.
You sure?
Incapable. Incapable. It can't. Because it doesn't generate text. It doesn't generate citations. It doesn't generate quotes. It just cites them. So, for example, for, a particular invalidity, for feature that's anticipated, the system will say, hey, it's anticipated by this quote, this quote, this quote. The quotes are verbatim cited from the patent. They're not generated by the system. And for people who use our web app directly, because we have different business models, some people just work with us as a search firm through email, but most clients use the web directly. They actually just click on the quotes that are cited, and it will take them exactly to where in the full patent description those quotes live. So they can literally see exactly where each quote comes from. Nothing is, made up from thin air.
And I forget, I'm just asking because I haven't been. I don't think I've ever worked in the patent space before. Though my wife works at a patent law firm. Do you have to pay for USPTO searches?
No. Well, funnily enough, actually, the USPTO, as of a month ago, launched a new service of automated AI searches. It's garbage so far. Everybody hates it. But yeah, so generally is you're not required per se, but you're very, very encouraged to do a search before you file.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes.
In the private space, go find someone or do it yourself using whatever search engine to just make sure that you're not spamming them with garbage applications. And then the examiners will have to do the searches themselves. But right now, because everybody is spamming them with applications, especially with people using AI not only to draft patents but also to invent,
right?
The rate of applications is going through the roof. right?
We're
So
already hitting vibe patents, huh? Already?
right? No, literally, exactly. Yeah, it's been going. Yeah, vibed patent drafts. So the office is completely overwhelmed with how many
Yeah.
applications they have. And honestly, for us, this system originally was developed with governments in mind. For us, back in 2020, in 2019, when we first came up with the idea, the problem that we really wanted to address is that examiners are completely overworked. The average patent application spends 2 weeks on an examiner's desk. When it's actually prosecuted, they're doing the search, making the decisions, etc. But it takes 2 years or more for the applicant to hear back on the office action, to hear back from the examiner.
Yeah.
Why? Because there is tens of thousands of backlog of application backlog at the examiner's offices, and it's only getting worse because, like I said, people are using AI to draft, and people are using AI to invent even all types of fields,
we already
electrical
covered
to
this.
CS.
People are assholes. Please go on.
Right. So the backlog is only getting worse. So for us, it's not people are like, oh, how could you automate the search of the PTO? For us, is how could they continue to function without automation? Specifically, like I said earlier, the 10-80-10 rule, because we're not going to have AI tell people you get a patent, you don't get a patent. That's a recipe for a disaster. Instead, the examiners are involved in the first 10% to set the strategy. AI gives them the best references that it finds, and the examiner comes back at the end to make that decision of whether to grant or to reject the patent application. And that's what they're good at. Examiners are not good at patent searching, but they're good at decision making. They're good at telling you, hey, this is gets, it doesn't. But actually finding the prior art, they're very limited because of their human brain. Actually, they did a study, I think a couple of years ago, where they gave like 3 examiners the same pending application, the same pending claims, and each examiner, when they did the search, they came up with different prior art references and different rejection arguments for that. Why? Because they have biases based on their education, biases based on the last case that they did. Sometimes they get lazy. This is good enough. That's not how our system works. It doesn't have biases. Instead, it will let the data, the patent database, influence its decision making. It doesn't go into the patent database with already some pre-existing biases. It will search ad nauseum until it finds the objectively best prior art, not just go off of based on experience. So that's why for us, this tool is perfectly utilized by patent offices from across the world. And
Where do you go from here? Like, I think this could take a lot of different directions. Like, what next feature sets are you working on? I mean, I suppose I could see like a consumer facing tool. So what's next for the software?
Yeah, we do work with the entrepreneurs and startups for like a D2C route. It's nice, it's fulfilling, but honestly, it's just startups will do like maybe 1, 2, 3 applications in a year. That's like 3 patent searches. And for us, the system is built for volume. It's built for, doing as many searches as possible. So it's just for us, not too much return on investment working with startups in terms of finding them. Once they have the project, it's very easy because they do very simple invalidity and novelty searches, which are the easiest to do. We do them in 12 hours. When I say we, I mean AutoPat, haven't searched in years. But the system is more so built for volume. In terms of what next for us, we've been asked to do drafting, we've been asked to do a bunch, and we will never do that because we are laser focused and locked in on being the best in the world at searching. Everything else is a noise, it's a distraction. Other people are innovative in it. For us, we found our niche within patent law, and that's what we're focused on. And it's just, we started off just with patentability and novelty searches, and then we moved on to doing invalidity searches, and now the system can also do freedom to operate or clearance searches, and all those with different degrees of autonomy, and just making the system better and better, and being able to do these at scale, is life-changing to a lot of clients, especially, for example, for FTOs. A lot of times clients are making the budgets be the primary decision maker on whether they do a clearance search or not. And as you likely know, with FTO searches, it's basically a risk factor. It's like, how risky do I want to be? Do I just go ahead and start selling or making this product without making sure I have the clearance to do that? Well, it costs $10,000 to do it, so I'm probably fine. They go ahead, launch the product, then they get sued for millions of dollars. So being able to offer folks unlimited FTOs at scale at a very reasonable cost, that's going to help them, mitigate some of that risk factor in their IP decision making. And that's, the goal at the end of the day.
In 2 minutes or less, will there be AI lawyers at some point in the future?
I will have to. Yeah, well, I don't think there should be, but it's again to revert back to the 10-80-10 rule. I think that is unquestionably inevitable.
You think always human in the loop?
Yeah, no, for sure. Well, and then the loop is specifically the beginning and the end, and I think that's not just for lawyers, for almost all intellectual professions. It's just humans are good at strategic thinking, abstract thinking, and decision making. That's where their expertise should be isolated, and that's where their human factor can best be put to use. So again, it's not automation because we hate humans. It's automation because we love humans and we want to help them focus on what they do best. For example, a lot of search firms are our biggest customer segment. They're not the biggest, probably the second or the third, but we love working with search firms. At first, they hate us, like, oh my God, you're coming for my job, you're stealing my job, whatever. We're like, no, we're making your job fun. Because when you ask the search firms and the patent searchers what they like most about patent searching, it is the setting the strategy and making the decisions. Those are the fun parts. Writing endless queries or reading 100 irrelevant patents, that's not what they like about their job. Same thing with lawyers. It's, there's a lot of, monotonous, a lot of tedious, middle ground that they don't like doing. That's what AI is best primed to do. So I think a version or another of the 10-80-10 rule is probably what the future looks like.
Last question for you. How's the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu coming along for you these days? And could you kick my ass if you had to?
No, I wouldn't. But it's been honestly, man, I wish I had more time to do more BJJ. It was, I had time in college, but it's just entrepreneurship is ridiculous. Like I start the day with 14 items on my to-do list, and then after 10 hours of working, it's 16. You know what I mean? So it's been very, very busy. Especially now with snowboarding season coming on, it's like Jiu-Jitsu is gonna take a backseat for sure. But it's definitely gonna always have a special place in my heart. Jiu-Jitsu and chess are like, I think, the two sports that lawyers enjoy the most, because it's the same kind of principle of like anticipating moves. It's Jiu-Jitsu is a chess game and chess is a Jiu-Jitsu game, and law is a combination of both of those. So always one of the special place in my heart.
Massyl, thank you. That was fun. Can you hang around for one last segment? Do you mind?
Absolutely. My pleasure.
All right. We'll come right back. All right, everybody. Welcome back. It's the Counter Program. It's a podcast within a podcast. This is a conversational space where we can address usually unrelated topics that I want to explore at a greater depth with my guests. Expect no rhyme and very little reason. Massyl, welcome back.
Good to be back. Thanks for having me, Jared.
I don't know if we covered this in the first half or if we covered this like pre-show, but you're a Connecticut dude.
Yes, sir.
Even though it's the shittiest state in New England.
Yeah,
That's
but
right.
It's the basketball capital of the world.
All right, let's come back to that. I want to play a little game I've invented with you. We're going to call it Con Man. All right, con with 2 N's, just so everybody's aware. Basically, I'm just going to ask you Connecticut questions, and you can wax poetic on those.
Okay.
Are you prepared?
Born and raised in North Africa, so that's my original alma mater. But I've been a Connecticut resident for the better part of a decade, so I think I should be okay.
Yeah, let's test your bona fides. Okay.
All right.
I'm a New Englander as well, as you know. Although Connecticut is kind of like New York to me. Mm-hmm. What do you think? Like, do Connecticut people
Did you
feel
know
the same
that
way?
Connecticut is? Did you know it's called Connecticut because it connects between Boston and New York?
I actually did not know that.
No, that's a lie.
Oh shit!
Right?
I was like, that's
true.
Great.
Right?
I gotta go.
I'm like, sense.
I'm good. I'm like, I gotta go find a YouTube video on this. My kids make fun of me because I watch videos on YouTube about like geography. They're like, you're such a fucking loser.
I love that. I do that too.
Thank you
big fan
for
of geography.
validating me.
We actually stole the name from some like Native American thing.
Oh,
That's where
probably
Connecticut comes from.
true. Yeah,
But
that's a
it's
very
just,
New England thing.
right, literally.
All right, let me ask you my first question.
Mhm.
What is the appropriate name for a submarine sandwich in Connecticut?
Subway. Subway was invented in Bridgeport, right?
Yes, I
Yeah.
believe that's correct. So,
Yeah.
what do locals call it? Do they call it hoagie, grinder, sub?
A grinder or sub.
All right,
Grinder
all
or sub.
right, you got it.
Let's go.
Do you know why it's
Let's
called
go.
a grinder?
Absolutely no idea.
Okay. Now I feel like I should just make something up to fuck with you because you made something up about Connecticut.
Right?
But I'm not going to do that for you because I'm a nice guy. So
Or maybe you couldn't think of something.
there are a couple different theories. The first theory is that the bread is hard to chew because it's like crusty Italian bread, so you have to grind it with your teeth to eat it. And then the other theory is that Italian American dock workers were known as grinders, and they named them after the sandwich.
Interesting. Never heard that. I think it's probably the former, because I don't think Subway was invented by Italians, was it? Are there even
Well,
Italians in Bridgeport? Were there Italians in Bridgeport?
I don't know. We'll have to find out. Well, I'll get on that. I'll follow
Yeah,
up with the
get on
next
the YouTube
episode.
video and let me know. Yeah.
Nah, I fucking won't do that. Don't expect that, anyone. Okay. Question number 2. What is the term that is used for a liquor store in Connecticut? What is shorthand for a liquor store?
I don't drink alcohol, so I don't
I can help you.
frequent many liquor stores, right?
Have you heard the terminology package store or
No, I have
packy?
not.
Oh, really? Okay, good. I can teach you something
Packy,
there.
wait, Packy rings a bell. Packy rings
Yeah.
a bell.
I don't want you walking around Connecticut sounding like you're not a local. So the package store is a very New England thing. It's up here too in Massachusetts. And basically like it stems from blue laws. So back in the day, people had to like conceal the alcohol when they brought it out of the store. So it had to be in like a brown paper bag. So that was called a package. And that's why they're called package stores. We're doing well so far,
Makes
I
sense.
think. How you feeling? I got a few more for you.
Sure. Okay, let's do it. I'm ready.
Next question. Preferred route to either Massachusetts or New York? I-95 or the Merritt Parkway?
The correct answer is I just put it on Google Patents because I'm a Gen Zer. Okay, but I will say.
Come on, man. You're fucking killing me.
I will say. Right? I would say I-95 is probably the correct answer.
Oh my
Merritt Parkway,
God,
isn't it-
really?
Yeah, that's what Merritt Parkway. It's the 2-lane or the 3-lane highway, but it doesn't go all the way
Two-lane
up to
highway.
Boston.
It's got scenic overpasses. That's the thing, scenic overpasses. So do this for me. Take a quick trip on the Merritt Parkway. Like you can see every overpass is different. It's designed slightly differently, scenic overpasses, and that's the shortcut I always take to go to New York.
It's
No, it does not go
interesting.
all the way to Boston, but it's a portion
Okay.
of Connecticut. So,
Got it.
coming on
Yeah.
ground today. This is exciting.
Yeah, I'm just
Okay.
L after L after L. Let's see if I can redeem myself in this next question.
Next question. Who has the best college basketball team? UConn or Duke?
Okay. Yeah. All right. I think
As I look
maybe,
at the giant banner behind you.
Yeah, but I actually did undergrad research in Duke. I lived there for 4 months in Durham. in their
I know. That's
electrical
why I wanted to
engineering
ask
department.
you. You got to sell out one city. Which one are you going to sell out? Sounds like Durham.
Well, I will say, maybe Duke, maybe last century, maybe the, early 1900s, that's the correct answer. But in the 21st century, the question is obviously UConn.
That is fucking ice cold. Okay. Let's stick with sports. What is the name of the former professional hockey team that used to play in Connecticut?
You're killing me, man. I'm a football fan, the original football, the European football. I do not. You're right.
Throwing stones left and right.
The only American sport
I will
watch.
give you multiple choice. You can guess, but go ahead. Yeah,
Okay,
what's the
I'll
only
take
American
multiple
sport
choice.
you watch? Basketball?
College basketball, not any basketball. I do watch MMA though. Big fan of
Okay.
MMA.
Okay.
Yeah, but
Who's your favorite
outside
MMA
of that-
fighter?
Oh, well, Habib Nurmagomedov, before he retired, now his cousin Islam Makhachev is reigning champion. He moved up a weight class and now he's double champion. So he's making all of us proud in the Muslim community. But yeah,
cool.
outside of MMA and college basketball, I'm a big Chelsea fan. Again, that's in London, European football or soccer.
Have never watched a single minute of MMA, believe it or not.
You're missing. Oh, MMA. Got you.
All right.
Got you.
Maybe okay.
That's
maybe
as American as they come. I was gonna say, because the UFC obviously put MMA on the spot, and Dana White literally just built it up from the very ground up. So very, very American sport. But I will say, go ahead.
So you just let me know when there's a good MMA fight, and I'll check it out. Do you want multiple choice for the hockey team? You might be able to guess.
Yeah. Okay. I'm good at multiple choice questions. That's how I passed engineering school. So let's
test that theory. So is the former professional hockey team from Connecticut called the Berlin Blazers, the Stanford Stampeders, the Hartford Whalers, or the Mystic Pizza? Blazers, Stampeders, Whalers, Pizza.
Blazers. Yeah, I think. I don't think it's the Stanford one. I feel like Stanford is such a new-ish city. I don't think they've had a good hockey team, and it's just you're too close to New York. I don't think it's Stanford. I don't think it's Hartford. I think it's Berlin Blazers. Blazers.
I'm proud of myself.
Wrong.
I came up with Berlin Blazers all on my own.
Oh wow!
It sounds like a team, right? Hartford Whalers.
Yeah. Hartford Whalers. Yeah, I guess I should have gone with Hartford.
Hartford Whalers has one of the best sports logos of all time. You should check it out.
Interesting.
They left Connecticut a while, probably like 25 years ago at this point.
Yikes.
And they had a band. They had a brass band that would play a song called Brass Bonanza. That was their theme song whenever they scored a goal.
Interesting. I was gonna say 25 years ago I was barely. I couldn't even talk yet. So yeah, I didn't get a chance to.
I'm gonna go walk into the woods and die now.
I will say, Jared. World Cup is going to be hosted in America this summer. So if there's
Boston
any time to,
has some games, right?
They do, but a lot of the semifinal and the final is going to be in New York. So, or New Jersey, definitely. I will try to. A little bit expensive to find the tickets and everything, but I'll definitely try. So Algeria is playing, so I'll definitely try to catch a game.
I like how you're trying to redirect this to stuff you care about, but this is my show.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, I got one more for you. This is probably your favorite TV show of all time. So let me ask you, where did the Gilmore girls live in Connecticut? Do you know what the Gilmore girls are?
No.
Really?
I feel like it rings a bell, but no, I've never seen an episode. Okay. But I will guess New Haven.
Good man. I like how you're just like, fuck it, I'm just gonna guess. Now they lived in a made-up town called Stars Hollow, Connecticut, which is not real.
Stars Hollow? Is it like a Harry Potter town? Like what is that?
Kind of. It's like a totally made-up town.
Okay.
Never watched the Gilmore Girls, huh? Me neither. So don't feel bad about that.
Did catch a few episodes of Gossip Girl when I was a teenager.
Really?
So,
okay.
Sure, yeah.
Do you want to hit me up with another contemporary reference that I won't understand before we finish up? Feel free.
No, you're all good. Wait, okay. Gossip Girl is not even temporary. That's like 90s, right?
It's contemporary to me.
Okay. Again, sorry for aging.
Pop culture stopped for me in 1998. I had a good run.
Nice. Honestly, it only took it downhill from there, probably. So,
Massyl, this is a lot of fun, man. Thank you for coming on.
Pleasure. Thank you for having me. Sorry for completely bombing your.
It's better when people totally get destroyed. So, enjoy the nutmeg steak.
That means you win. Yeah. No, you win. Congratulations. I'm proud of you. You did great.
Oh, it's not a competition. In any event, come back again. We'll talk to you soon. Take care.
Pleasure. Thank you. Have a good one.
Thanks to our guest, Massyl Mallem of PatentPlus AI. To learn more about Massyl and PatentPlus AI, visit patentplus.ai. Look at that curveball. Patentplus.ai. I think we have our first AI domain name here. Exciting. Now, because I'll always be a 90s kid who would love nothing more than to taste So Beloved Bus Brew just one more time, that's not as perverse as it sounds, trust me, but whose true passion is burning CDs for everyone who would listen I'm not just doing the modern version of that, which is creating Spotify playlists for every podcast episode that I record, where the songs are tangentially related to an episode topic, sometimes very tangentially. This week's playlist is chill as fuck. That's right, homies, it's winter songs. It's here to warm your soul and is sponsored by Lucky Charms Hot Cocoa. That's a thing. They just haven't actually sponsored the show. Curse you, Lucky. Join us next time when I learn about animal husbandry. Don't forget the rubber gloves, you wankers.